Hey guys, it's Thomas from NurseMoneyTalk, and in this video, I actually just want to talk about kind of like you might have heard about challenging the LPN exam as an RN student, and so we're actually going to talk about if that's the case, if you actually can take the LPN as an RN student, and if that's so, should you do that? Is there actually an advantage to doing that? If so, what are they? So let's get started on that conversation. But before I get to that though, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, I want to go ahead and invite you to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos, because in this channel, we're going to be focusing about being a nursing student and surviving nursing school and getting to like your first year or two as an actual nurse. That is our focus. So don't forget to subscribe. If you are listening to us on podcast, make sure you subscribe, and we would appreciate it if you would give us a positive rating on whatever podcast platform you're using to listen to this episode. Let's go ahead and dive right in. First things first is, yes, actually some states will let RN students actually take the NCLEX-PN partways through nursing school. So from what I understand, like it was actually more of a common thing, like I guess years ago. I think most states, I believe, have actually done away with it. I think there's actually very few states that actually still allow you to do this. So the best way for you to actually know if you are eligible or if that's an option for you is to contact your local state board of nursing and then just kind of see what options are available to you. And see what what requirements they might have, because it's probably going to vary from state to state. I was actually able to take the LPN exam as an RN student. My process was I had to take, if I remember correctly, I think I would have had to have already taken, I think it was like med-surg, psych, peds, and women's health, I think, were the 4 classes I had to have taken, then fill out this application. I think the dean of the program had to sign stating I was in good standing order, and then I'm pretty sure somebody else had to sign, and of course pay a fee, because there's always a fee associated with paperwork. I was able to then get permission to then sign up to take to schedule for the NCLEX-PN, which of course, when I was signing up to schedule for that, had to pay another fee to then be able to schedule that, and then took that and whatnot. Then I was able to pass that in the first go around. As you can hear, I did it. Now you're probably then wondering, did I think it was worth it? Would I recommend somebody else to actually do it? And you know, looking back on it now, and oddly enough, I did have kind of like some mixed, I had some mixed experiences with it. And I think it was partially because of the job I got afterwards. That was a huge chunk of it. And then I think it also had to do with, if I knew what I know now, I would have done some things just a little bit differently than how I actually did it. But even with all that said, I would actually still recommend that if you have an option to do it and you can afford, to, to pay all the fees associated with it, and also can devote a little bit of, some of the time to studying for it, then I think you definitely should. As for the studying part, well, the money thing is what it is. The time, in terms of actually studying, there's a lot of overlap in terms of what you learn, but I think it's kind of, a little bit differently in the sense of like, one is for an LPN and the other one is for an RN. So there is some slight differences in that as well. But overall, I would definitely recommend it. And here's some of the reasons why. Now, I will say this though, like even if you get the exam, like, take it and become an LPN, your experiences probably will vary from this, and especially depending on what you end up doing. The first thing that I was actually able to get some experiences while working as an actual nurse when I was in nursing school. And, the job that I had then, I had somewhat of an orientation, not really. And then, I started taking care of patients. It was a weird situation, but the point is, like, I was kind of getting like some real world experiences that other nursing students were not getting, because I was in a lot of ways functioning closer to my end goal because I actually had a nursing license. And so that was, it was kind of cool because, like, I remember, like, I was actually able to start kind of working through some of those, like, first year jitters. And I know you probably don't understand what I mean. I think you'll understand it once you actually graduate and you have that first job. And so I was actually able to, I think, get like several months ahead, if you will, of where my other peers would have been, after we actually graduated from RN school. So the second thing is that if you have listened to any of my other videos, you'll see in that I've mentioned several times about how I had to work so many hours because I was kind of paying for school, paying for my living. So I was kind of doing it all by myself pretty much. And so I was already working. When I became an LPN, I was able to get a little bit of a pay bump than working as a nurse tech, which is what I was working at before. Actually though, let me mention two caveats. One of them is actually about the first one that I mentioned, which was working. And that's like, be careful after you graduate and get your licensure and you start working as a new nurse, because you could find yourself in a situation where your employer tries to essentially tries to get you out there taking care of patients without adequate orientation. So one, be careful about that. And I'll leave, I think you guys can kind of read between the lines. I'll leave that alone. The second one, about the working and the pay thing as well, is that I quickly realized then hospitals don't really pay LPNs like a whole lot. Like I remember, like, once I graduated, oddly enough, I was actually only making a couple bucks, a couple dollars more per hour as an LPN than I was as a nurse tech. And I was shocked. But that was, because I remember I talked to, I think it was like whoever the hiring, whatever, was for that particular facility. And they were like, yeah, I mean, that's what we paid, new LPNs. And I was like, what? I was like, you got to be kidding me. You'll probably make a little bit more long-term LPN route if you're about making more money. You're probably going to be looking at nursing homes, assisted livings, LTACs, or something like that to really make good money as an LPN. That like I said, my experiences with that. The third one is that it actually gave me some peace of mind after I graduated RN school and I was about to take my NCLEX-RN. And you're probably wondering, what do you mean by peace of mind? So here's how I looked at it. Was that in my mind after I graduated RN school and I was, signing up for the NCLEX-RN, I was able to think to myself that I am not completely screwed over if I fail the NCLEX-RN. I was pretty confident I was gonna pass, but I was able to just kind of take some of that stress and anxiety away because I kept thinking to myself, I have my LPN. So I have that. So regardless of what happens, I have like a backup plan. I can leave this hospital, go to assisted living, nursing home, or whatever, and be able to make better money and then kind of figure things out. So in a way, it kind of indirectly gave me like or actually directly, I should say, gave me like a plan B if I was to fail the NCLEX-RN. The other advantage that, to doing this, I didn't quite realize until going into the exam for the NCLEX-RN was that some of the anxiety that my peers, my classmates had about taking the NCLEX-RN, I actually didn't have it because a lot of the process was the exact same in terms of the fingerprint, the whole 9 yards and everything that you have to do, even in terms of how crazy secure like the testing facility was and all the weird rules that they had. I'd already seen it before, so it wasn't anything that was completely brand new to me. Not saying I still wasn't nervous, but it was like it wasn't as bad as it could have been because I'd already have been through that the first time with the NCLEX-PN. So was becoming an LPN during RN school all, fun and no issues? Well, no, there were some downsides to it. And so some of, one big one, which I kind of touched up on, was that I didn't make as much as I thought I was going to. It was a little bit more. And honestly, there was kind of a lot of other benefits and whatnot that made it all worth it. But it definitely wasn't, as much more as I thought it was gonna be. Paying the application and then the NCLEX-PN, and then turning around and then having to then pay the NCLEX-RN a year later. I mean, it did get, fairly expensive pretty quick. The one last other thing that I will mention is that kind of like a big downside is that I think that you kind of have to be careful in terms of who you go work for and how you get oriented or not. And so depending on what facility you're working at, I think will make a big deal, will make a big difference. And so you just want to make sure that before you get stuck into a position of where, you're a real nurse now, that you get adequate orientation. But yeah, so that is all I have for this particular video. Thank you so much for watching this, and thank you for listening. If you're listening to this on podcast, let me know if you have any questions, and I'll put a link to the article that I wrote on this and any other helpful material in the descriptions. And I will catch you guys very soon in that next one.